Welcome, everybody, to Wall Street Reporter's next Super Stock Company Spotlight, where we bring you those stocks which have a 10x to 100x upside potential. We are back with Mentis Life Sciences. NMLSF is the symbol, and Dr. Marvin Hausman, the Chief Medical Officer. Dr. Marvin, welcome back to the program.
Great to be here, Jack. I hope you're having a nice day.
It's a fantastic day. And I think it's going to be an amazing year for investors in psychedelic stocks, or at least this is according to some of the top analysts, some of the top biotech analysts out there. The smart money is what I've been reading, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that the psychedelic space is expected to have really like a breakout year in the next, could be the next 6 to 18 months. As a bunch of key drugs, psychedelic-based drugs that are entering like late-stage trials, and if they get positive data that comes out of these trials, that could reignite the whole sector, like we saw, 2 years ago when the market just went absolutely crazy for psychedelics.
That's true. I mean, so we're here. It's going to be a big breakout this year. I probably will see a lot of results by the end of 2023 into 2024, and the local authorities are now they're allowing a lot more research into Schedule 1 drugs, because the psychedelics are considered LSD, psilocybin, MDMA, Schedule 1. But this is a very exciting time to be in psychedelics.
Yeah, the other thing that's been moving some of the psychedelic stocks is that countries like Australia, they're allowing psychiatrists now, I think starting in June, I believe, is to prescribe psychedelic-based drugs for a number of indications. So things like that really kind of are bringing more attention to the space. And what I find compelling from an investor's perspective is that and we put out a spreadsheet earlier of the stocks that are in the space that are in like phase 2, phase 3 studies for different psychedelic-based drugs, and most of them have valuations of 100 to 400 million, right? Mentis, the valuation is under $10 million right now, and you're entering this phase 2A clinical trial. So there is a major milestone coming up, which is, I think, what everybody's been waiting for, is the patient recruiting, right? So bring us up to speed, because this is what everybody's been waiting for. When is this? I think we started about 3 weeks ago on the patient recruiting.
Well, we started. The study was approved around Christmas time. Then we had to produce the drug, which takes time. You have to have stability studies. The government requires seeing the capsule. We had to produce the 1.5 milligram capsules, which we've done all very successfully. We've had 6 months stability. We're probably the only company, I don't know, in the world that maybe has 1.5 milligram capsules of psilocybin that know that it's perfectly okay 6 months after production. So we've really done the job as a classic pharmaceutical approach to psilocybin and the use of psilocybin in a clinical disorder such as autism. And now Fragile X syndrome.
Right. So again, for anybody that's new to Mentis, I guess the company's focus is developing this psilocybin-based therapeutic for treating Fragile X, subset of autism, and so we're in the patient recruiting process now. When the big question again, this is and I've asked this question various ways. Everybody wants to know is like, when is the first patient? When is that going to be announced? When do you expect that to be announced?
When we're screening patients, and when we start treatment, we're thinking of making an announcement so the public would know that we've admitted our first patient to the Fragile X study with microdose psilocybin. There's a screening process that has to go. The patient has to have the right genetic background for a subset within Fragile X syndrome. I don't want to go into the genetics, but each patient could be different. But you want to have the same patient, 10 of the same category patients, so that when you do your statistical and evaluation of treatment, all the patients can be compared one to each other.
Okay. I think, it's a really important point, which you brought up in one of your first interviews, is that, designing these studies is extremely important. You got to get, the right patients. It's got to be, everything. It's got to be all identical. So you got to get all the data, all the statistics have to, everything has to be absolutely perfect. If it's not, then, then the trial could fail.
Well, that's the problem with a lot of companies while they fail in clinical studies. And I've been very successful in my clinical studies because it's an absolute process. It said you really have to know how to design the clinical study. You have to know how to identify the patients within that disease category. And then you have to have the right statistical program to analyze the data. And we've done it all, but it takes time. You don't just magically snap your fingers and start a study. And so we're feeling very confident where we are right now at Nova Mentis. And we obviously Health Canada feels very careful, very happy. They wouldn't have approved the study. And we have 3 outcomes. We got a primary outcome, a secondary outcome, which involves behavioral testing. And then we have a tertiary or a third outcome, which involves, you mentioned it once before, the machine learning artificial intelligence part of this study, where we're using state-of-the-art machine learning artificial intelligence to analyze genetic data, inflammatory genetic data in the brain called messenger RNA. And plus we're measuring serotonin levels in spit. Known in exosomes in spit. These are vesicles that come out of the brain. They carry serotonin levels. So we've got the whole enchilada to be analyzed, and we're very excited we can't wait to see the data.
Okay, so so you bring up an important point. So one of the things that you're doing that's very unique is that, again, you're using this, these biomarkers. So it's not just, so Fragile X. I mean, right now it's diagnosed based historically, or autism, it's been diagnosed based on behavioral analysis, right? It's not like it hasn't been done using biomarkers. Now,
that's correct. We're the first company right now. I think we may be the first company to use messenger RNA biomarkers and serotonin levels. I don't know anyone else who's done this. I may be wrong. I could be proven wrong. I'm not perfect, but I check I study what's online, and I don't see anything. But the key here is that we're now going to be collecting specimens from specifically categorized patients in Fragile X syndrome. And we're very excited. We've started the study. We've spent under $3 million to get here, including manufacturing a huge supply of psilocybin. And other companies I look, they're spending $30 million, $40 million a year. And no results.
I think this is one of the things that really the market hasn't realized yet, is that Nova Mentis,
we don't get any respect. No one realizes how did we get here. It's unbelievable how we got here.
If you're enjoying this video, make sure to click that like and subscribe button to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also get the notifications to get updates on all our latest videos, and of course make sure you get a copy of my #1 bestseller book, TenBagger Blueprint, #1 bestseller on Amazon. Gives you my proven framework, the proven system for finding stocks that can go up 10x to 100x. Now look, I've created over $1 trillion in wealth for investors over the course of the last 25 years. And this book gives you that proven framework, a proven 10-step system for finding those stocks, which can go up 10x to 100x. It tells you the signals to look for, when to get in, when to get out. It goes into fundamentals, technicals, charts, all the stuff that you need. So again, TenBagger Blueprint on Amazon, and here's to your 100x. No, it really is, because when you think about it, again, we publish a spreadsheet where you have some of these stocks are trading at valuations of 100 million to 400 million. At the ones even at the bottom of that list, 100 million, even in the 80 million range, they're really not that much further along than Nova is, and Nova is trading at a 10th, at a 90% discount to their valuation, and again, and they've spent tens of millions of dollars to get to where they are now, whereas Nova has achieved this on, you said $3 million, which is, in the biotech world, that's actually, I don't want to say unheard of, but it's very, very rare, very rare.
It's almost unheard of. And it's going to be a very exciting moment when the world wakes up one morning and sees the data from our Fragile X study. And hopefully it's going to work perfectly. But when it works perfectly, this is a major, major breakthrough for a small company such as Mentis. It's exciting. It's an exciting time.
Yeah, no. So the idea is, okay, so you got the patient recruiting going right now. Hopefully we'll get some updates on that. Maybe the first patient in the trial. And again, you mentioned the process. The process could take a number of months, right? By the time you get the 10 patients in the trial, everybody gets the dose of the 30-day trial. Then you get the data that needs to be analyzed, and that takes a little while, and then that gets released. That's the idea.
Yeah, of course, but it's an exciting time. We're screening patients every day. We're screening patients throughout Canada. As soon as we have our first patient enrolled, it'll be a pleasure to announce it. And then they'll be treated for 30 days, then we'll analyze the data statistically. And as I mentioned earlier, we're using machine learning, artificial intelligence, because you have a lot of data sets, a lot of data moving around.
Okay.
And
I want to get into that in just a second, but it's interesting. I just want to point that out is that every time we've done an interview with you before, where you said we may be getting this milestone, we're getting close to the milestone. It actually happened pretty quickly thereafter. I mean, you kind of downplay things. You're kind of a very conservative guy in a way, but the reality is, I mean, so we don't know. Maybe
listen,
under promise.
Jack, under promise and over deliver. That's my style.
Right. No, right. No, this is good. This is why you've had, I don't know, so many drugs approved through, the FDA process over the years. Let's talk about something which is kind of interesting, or I should say very interesting, inside of Mentis, and this, nobody has paid attention to this before. One of your like key assets in the company is this AI, kind of diagnostics business. So this mRNA technology, which you use to diagnose, I guess these, I don't know, biomarkers. And this is, again, the data that you're going to be getting from the biomarkers is going to be one of the key things in this trial. And the company announced, Mentis announced recently that, you're looking to, the company is looking to, kind of monetize that asset because it's been in the company. It's, it hasn't been, the market's not valuing it or anything. And this technology can be used by other, companies developing neurological, drugs for, their processes. And so this could be, quite valuable. Can you explain how this thing works?
Sure, absolutely. I designed it. I ought to be able to explain it since I created the mRNA program. What we looked at is inflammatory genes in the brain that are associated with neurodegenerative diseases, not just autism, Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, Lou Gehrig's disease. And I'm going to come back to Lou Gehrig's disease in just a minute with the FDA review of Biogen's drug, tofersen. And so the dream I had was to look at the language of DNA. DNA is fixed. So you have an autistic child has Fragile X. He has fixed DNA that is associated with his diagnosis of Fragile X. Yet, there are inflammatory components that are involved with Fragile X that cause the symptoms of Fragile X. And there are genes called messenger RNA, cytokines, chemokines, that stimulate cell function in the brain. And that language is changing in the individual. So by having a language or a snapshot of that person, the moment before we start the study, an inflammatory index associated in a personalized basis with that individual, and then treat that individual and see how that inflammatory index changes, that's objective. Most tests are behavioral. They're subjective tests in most neurologic diseases, whether it's Alzheimer's, whether it's Parkinson's, or dementia. I mean, and especially autism, the autism spectrum disorder, Fragile X. We're doing it differently. We're going to do the classic accepted behavioral testing that FDA accepts, Health Canada accepts, European medicine agencies accept, and we're going to add these objective biomarkers. Now, what's exciting is that recently Biogen, which is a major multi-billion-dollar biotech company, had a drug called tofersen in Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS. They had an advisory committee meeting, I think it was only a month ago. The drug did not have any symptom improvement over the placebo. However, a biomarker, a neurofibrillary protein in the brain, was lowered statistically in a significant fashion. And the advisory committee suggested to the FDA that this drug be approved not on symptom relief, but on a change in a toxic biomarker. That is unbelievable and very exciting for us. And there are other companies now online. I'm not going to mention them because we're looking at them and they're looking at us in terms of our messenger RNA inflammatory panel. This is proprietary. Patents have been filed. And recently we announced that we changed the name of a division within Mentis called Pills Bioscience. And that is the company I initially was hired by as a consultant to develop psilocybin in autism. And Nova acquired Pills Bioscience. So they made the decision to rename Pills Bioscience SWAB AI Diagnostics. AI for artificial intelligence, SWAB because you're swabbing cheek cells, and Diagnostics because it's an inflammatory index that has its own diagnostic index. And so we're sitting uniquely in a position to monetize these developments, as well as the serotonin assay that we have developed at University of Central Florida. And that serotonin assay is measured in exosomes. These are vesicles that penetrate the blood-brain barrier and appear in the saliva of the mouth, and we can measure serotonin levels. And we know that a lot of neurodegenerative disorders, when you treat them, the neurotransmitter serotonin changes. So these biomarkers have been moved into a separate division, and they're available to be used by other companies. And I can't take you over the wall, but we're negotiating with other companies now to monetize those biomarkers.
Okay, so it's interesting. So this
exciting time for it, Jack. It's exciting.
Yeah. So I mean, so in theory, again, this is this diagnostics business, this mRNA diagnostics business, potentially, again, it could be, it could be worth more than Nova right now by itself, because I mean, Nova is trading at an 8 million valuation, right? What is the value, right? What's the value of a medical diagnostics business that could be biomarker?
What's the value? I mean, you have to look at the valuation of $1 billion company called Biogen. Their approval is, let me finish. Their approval is based on a biomarker. So we have it. So any company that's doing research, and you could go online, and your shareholders can go online and look at neurologic drugs that are being developed by Merck, Pfizer. Could they not use our mRNA panel to show the response of this drug? I think the answer is obvious.
Yeah, so this would be really, I think, a game changer, because so this drug that Biogen was developing, right? This drug that Biogen was developing, basically it got they didn't show behavioral changes, but the biomarkers showed a significant.
Well, I don't know with behavior. I said it was Lou Gehrig's disease, so I don't know the exact endpoints they were looking at for Lou Gehrig's disease. It's a very severe disorder, and the drug was not that much better than the placebo. Okay, what the placebo is, right?
Yeah.
And so, but there was a marked decrease in the toxic protein in the brain that's associated with Lou Gehrig's disease, which is very significant. And we're looking at that stuff now in autism, and we're going to be looking at it. We have the potential to look in Alzheimer's disease. We have the potential to look at ketamine treatment. We have the potential for the psychedelic industry that we're involved in, that are looking at MDMA, that are looking at LSD, that are looking at ketamine. They could use our technology to assess drug response. Take ketamine, for example. Ketamine is there right now. It's being used for treatment-resistant depression. Now, depression has other severity levels: mild, moderate, and treatment severe depression. Well, our inflammatory panel has the potential, we haven't tried it yet, theoretically, to distinguish between mild, moderate, and severe depression. Can you imagine what that's worth to the ketamine industry? So a patient comes in and you know what dose of ketamine to use. If it's severe, you use one dose. If it's mild, you use another dose. We have the ability to help them. I don't know anyone else that has that. And we're getting no respect. I mean, no one even knows about us.
So this is okay. So this is actually this is really like a game changer for this psychedelics industry, because again, the whole industry is based. It's these neurological neuroinflammatory disorders and neurological conditions. A lot of it has been the diagnoses have all been behavioral based or very subjective. Now you have these biomarkers which give you absolute data. And this, again, if you can help some of these companies get their drugs approved, all of a sudden, that's worth billions of dollars, like we've seen in the case of Biogen. So what is the I don't know. I guess the question is, what is it worth to them? What would they pay to have access to this diagnostics tool?
I could tell you and your shareholders, stay tuned. We'll find out. We're out there. Right. People are learning about us, and anything can happen any day, any hour. Okay. And companies are calling us. The other thing, we have a large supply of psilocybin too. So many companies are looking at our portfolio and our manufacturing process. Remember, we can manufacture pure psilocybin in microdose amounts and put it in a capsule. I don't know any other company that can do that.
Yeah, and so here's the thing. We've seen like some of these companies. There was one stock that's focused on the Australian market. I think they were doing MDMA, and that stock. I mean, that thing went, I think is up like up at over 1,000% in a couple of months, based on this MDMA. Psilocybin could be the next big mover. And again, I think Mentis is, I don't know, is it the only game in town in terms of being able to produce at scale?
I don't know any other company that's doing microdose psilocybin. The only other in Fragile X syndrome and autism, the only other company that's out there is Zynerba, that's using cannabinoid gels for Fragile X syndrome, cannabis. We may be the only company other than Compass, which is using psilocybin in depression, but they're using dose, 20 milligrams, 25 milligrams. And then they're under psychiatric care. They have to follow the patient all day. By the way, significantly, Health Canada has given us approval to send the patient home with our psilocybin capsules. I don't know anyone else that has that in autism. So they feel secure in our microdose approach to the treatment. So the patient doesn't have to come every day to get a treatment. The patient takes the capsules home, and it comes back a week later, gets another week's supply. That's a very dramatic change and improvement in the psilocybin treatment of autism.
Okay. So this is there are some exciting milestones, potential, real major catalysts for the stock coming up right now. We have the phase 2A clinical trials. We have potential news flow coming out of the Swab AI division, which is in these neurological biomarkers. Now, One thing I don't think we touched on it. Where does the AI, the artificial intelligence component, where does that fit into the diagnostics tool that you've developed?
Well, you have to analyze a lot of data. You have all these behavioral tests, 12 or 13 behavioral tests. With some of these behavioral tests have 13 to 30 components within each one. And then you have the messenger RNA, 52 genes. And then you have serotonin. You're talking about so many balls in even a small number of patients. So if you have to think, just think of 20 sheets of paper. And each sheet represents a patient. And on each sheet is 300 data points. You got to analyze sheet number 1 with sheet number 10, sheet number 6. You need a supercomputer, and you need machine learning artificial intelligence. And the person who is consulting on this study is Dr. Kyle Ambert, who's the director of machine learning artificial intelligence at Nike Corporation. You can't get someone of that. I'm sorry?
You're talking about the sneaker, Nike, the sneaker company.
Nike, yes. Yeah, Phil Knight is into cancer research. I mean, he's given hundreds of millions of dollars to Oregon Health Sciences and other universities. Dr. Ambert did some of his analysis. I met Dr. Ambert at Intel Corporation when I was doing a Parkinson's study with Michael J. Fox Foundation. And Intel made Dr. Ambert available to me to use artificial intelligence to analyze the Parkinson's data. Now that I'm working with Mentis, Dr. Ambert has agreed to consult on our project, and he's moved from Intel. He was acquired from Intel by Nike, and he has become the head of their the head or director of their artificial intelligence program. So we're blessed to have one of the world's experts to help us.
Interesting. Okay, so he's one of your consultants now in this project.
That's correct. Yeah, in fact, we're going to be analyzing data. Remember, you probably forgot that we had an observational study in generalized autism that was IRB approved in the United States and Canada. We have about 38 diagnostic specimens from cheek cells in generalized autism. We're about to analyze those as we speak. I was on the phone this morning with the lab where the specimens are being stored at minus 80 degrees. And I was on with Thermo Fisher Scientific with Dr. Reddy, who is the head of a division at Thermo Fisher, and we're setting up the analysis for next week.
Okay, interesting. And what is it that this is the behavioral study for general autism, not
behavioral. This is a messenger RNA that has been acquired from all types of autism patients across Canada and the United States. So we had 105 people or families or caregivers who have contacted us. To date, we have acquired, I think, 36 or 38 cheek cell samples, and they're about to be analyzed. Stay tuned. We could have fantastic results in terms of messenger RNA in the general autism spectrum disorder.
Okay, it's interesting. Okay, so this could be a first, basically.
Yes.
Okay.
Everything's happening at once. I mean, that's why my day is, I don't sit around. I mean, I think I have a very busy day. I'm glad we were able to schedule something during this hour.
You're difficult to get a hold of. No, I know you're busy. No, the company's got there's a lot going on. It's interesting because Nova only puts out news not as often as we would like, right? It's always substantive, right? It's always substantive, but there's a lot.
You mean not as much as Wall Street would like. We want to have very good, substantial things to announce. Sorry.
Okay. So, all right. So so the Swab AI business could be really compelling. You have this guy from Nike that's AI data science guy working on it. Yeah, very exciting. Okay, Marvin, what else? Is there anything else that investors should be paying attention to, or is this enough for now?
I think this really covers the waterfront. I think what they should pay attention to is the application of our proprietary technology in messenger RNA to the rest of the industry, any neurodegenerative disease, so that we can expand way beyond autism to Lou Gehrig's disease, multiple sclerosis, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. It's just beginning. Our problem is that we never really, like other companies in our sector, raised a lot of money. We raised a very small amount of money, have accomplished a lot. We have a CRO that's going to run the whole study. That CRO, if you look at the announcement, has agreed to take shares as well as payment. I mean, think about that. They're not silly people. These are smart people who are saying, maybe I better get on the, I want to be on the train with Nova Mentis. So this is exciting for us right now.
Yeah. No, okay. So this is no. That's actually, it's a validation, because I mean, why would they take shares unless they really felt confident that?
Oh, but they're getting paid as well as shares. But they said, I want to participate. My God, this could be a grand slam home run, and I've done it before, Jack. So it's not my first rodeo.
Right. No, this is, look, I think one of the compelling things that also investors, and we talked about this early on, is that one of the things is that you've had I think between 5 or 8 drugs approved through the FDA. You ran a New York Stock Exchange company. You were a CEO of a company that went up, I think 50x at one point, which was acquired by another company.
Co-founded it, yeah, Medco. We're now. I think now we're a division of Pfizer. I think Pfizer acquired King Pharmaceutical, acquired us, and now we're a division of Pfizer. We still have a lab in Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina, near Duke University. So the road has been a successful one, and I'm looking to be successful with autism, which is a devastating disease. It's still an unmet medical need. It devastates patients, it devastates family, it devastates society. We need something. There is nothing in autism spectrum disorder and Fragile X syndrome. So, Jack, this is an exciting time for me. I'm getting older. I would like to leave a legacy for this devastating disease.
Marvin, I want to end on one thing that I want to touch on, because this is something, this kind of brings us back to one of the earliest discussions we had, was that you mentioned that, the idea was to start with, getting an approval for Fragile X, and then potentially this, you mentioned this, psilocybin has potentially could be used as a therapeutic for, other neurological conditions, again, like, whether it's Alzheimer's, Lou Gehrig's, things like that. And now that you have the biomarker, this biomarker data, is this kind of like where this is all going? Because it all kind of converges at one point, right? Because,
well, I'll let you surmise that. I got to be careful what I say right now. But there's a lot of interest. Let me end by saying there's a lot of interest in our technology and the application to other neurodegenerative diseases. The other thing that I think you may be alluding to is that once a drug is approved and it's in the formulary, doctors can individually, in their own practice, use that as an off-label drug. You can't advertise, but a doctor could say, okay, you have Fragile X. I have an autistic child that's not Fragile X. I would like to use it. They could. They could also say, okay, I have a patient with Lou Gehrig's disease. I want to use your drug. I want to see if it happens. So they could apply under special program. I think in Canada, it's an SAP program. I think in the US with the FDA, it's called the Investigator-Initiated IND program, and they could apply for use in their practice of the drug.
Okay.
So it's exciting for us.
Yeah, and with the biomarker stuff, then that really opens up a lot of possibilities for commercialization.
Yes,
potentially. Okay, Marvin, I'll end on that note. Thank you for the update, and I'm looking forward to getting another one as soon as possible. So hopefully, when that first patient,
let's as soon as we enroll the first patient, let's have a discussion.
Exactly. Okay, Marvin, thank you again.
All right. Have a nice day, Jack. Thank you so much.